Good Saturday morning, everybody. Well, I wanted to bring you an update on Nate. It is now a hurricane. It actually became a hurricane overnight tonight, so it has been upgraded. So I want to show you 85-mile-per-hour sustained winds. It is a Category 1 hurricane. At the 5 o'clock advisory, winds were at 80 miles per hour, and we've got gusts up to 100. It is racing, though. It's moving to the north-northwest at 22 miles per hour, so it is moving very quickly, and it's over the Gulf of Mexico, which has some very warm water, so it's not a surprise that it did strengthen overnight. Now, by Sunday morning, it is expected to make landfall near New Orleans and close to the Florida Panhandle. Winds up to 90 miles per hour, so still a Category 1 hurricane. And then beyond that point, remember, hurricanes need water to sustain themselves or even to grow, and it's going to stay over land. So what that means is it will then become a tropical storm as we push into Sunday afternoon, and then by Monday morning, post-tropical, so it loses all of its tropical characteristics and just becomes a regular area of low pressure. Now, it will start to move closer to our region, so we will have chances for rain in the forecast, mainly as we push into Monday and into Tuesday and lasting into Wednesday as well. But again, no direct impacts from Nate, which is some good news. Let's look at the models here. The models are in pretty good agreement that Nate will continue on that north-northwesterly track and then eventually curving off to the north and east very quickly as a cold front approaches. So that front will help to kick Nate out over the New England states and then pretty much out of the country by then into Wednesday. So by Wednesday, we're not going to be talking about Nate anymore, and really even into, say, Tuesday and into Wednesday, it should then become post-tropical. All right, so let's talk about the rainfall here, because along the Gulf Coast states, they are expecting several inches of rain. So this is just one particular model, and I mentioned it is a model. So again, it's not exact here, and some of these totals could be a little bit higher depending on how some of these bands set up. But anywhere from, say, an inch up to almost 5-6 inches of rain expected along the Gulf Coast, especially along the Florida Panhandle. And again, some isolated spots could pick up some heavier amounts. So what is steering Nate? Now, it's developed in a unique place, and we'll talk more about where it developed, but there are a couple of things that really are directing Nate. So we've got high pressure sitting off over the Atlantic, and again, remember, winds around high pressure, that's clockwise, and then we've got the Central America gyre air, and that is actually counterclockwise. So you'll notice here it's being steered by both of those systems. It continued to push into the Gulf. It is in the Gulf now as a hurricane, and it will continue to move off to the north and northwest, and then again that front will start to curve it to the north and east. Water temperatures, I mentioned water temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico are very warm. Hurricanes need very warm water to form or even to sustain itself. Where Nate developed in the southeastern Caribbean Sea and even close to the Yucatan Peninsula, notice these water temperatures are in the mid-80s. And then as you push into the Gulf of Mexico, we've got water temperatures that are also very warm, running about 1 to 2 degrees above normal. So again, Nate is expected to continue to strengthen, and it's not a surprise if it does so, but remaining a Category 1 hurricane. So again, we'll bring you any updates if anything changes. Now, in terms of where it developed, it's not a surprise that it did develop in the Caribbean Sea. This is actually a pretty popular spot as we go into October. So here's what we're talking, where most tropical storms develop or move as we push into October. So we'll say right in the Gulf of Mexico, we'll say the first spot, and then the second spot into the Caribbean Sea. That's where Nate developed, moving over Florida, and then number 3 out over the Atlantic. The Atlantic is pretty much tapped out at this point. It's been a lot of traffic through the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. So the Western Caribbean Sea is where we typically start to see more October tropical development. All right, we'll continue to watch Nate, and we'll bring you any updates. In the meantime, you can ask any questions. Don't forget to reach out to me, Iisha Scott on Facebook, 13 Iisha Scott on Twitter, and Iisha Scott on Instagram. Have a great weekend.